Hello, it's me, I'm back again. And I was hearing a lot about this game called Back 4 Blood, and I decided, hey, why not just download it and check it out? It's made by the same people who made the Left 4 Dead franchise. But after installing it, I just kind of forgot about it and haven't played it until quite a while afterwards. But I'm just going to jump into the video because if you clicked on this, then you probably already know what the game is mostly. But a certain game mode really caught my eye. But when you first jump in, there's a lot to take in. First, there's the human side, which after playing for a bit, you'll get it pretty quickly. But then there's the Ridden side. And that's what I'll be covering today. I'll be ranking and reviewing every special Ridden in Back 4 Blood Swarm mode. Obviously, this is just my opinion, and I really encourage you to go out and try every character. That being said, we're going to be starting with the tall boys, the first of which being the Bruiser. Bruiser, I hardly know her. Shockingly, probably the least played tall boy. First, its weak spot being on its right shoulder, being behind his head, making it already pretty hard to hit. Next, its health is at a huge 800. Now the first ability being the burst ability, which is a short sprint to get closer to survivors, which all tall boys have, and it's at a slight cooldown. Now the first damage ability being the overhead smash, which is just one big hit that has a starting damage of about 14 to 15 damage, which is pretty solid damage. Its next ability being the frenzy ability, which is a 3-hit combo, has a starting damage of about 6. But during this ability, you are stuck in place, making it seem like the overhead smash ability should pretty much always be used over the frenzy ability. But there are a few situations, such as if a character has the card True Grit, which can be super annoying because what the card does is that whenever they're hit with an attack that does 15 or more damage, they regenerate a little bit of health. But make sure to keep your eyes out for those situations. The Bruiser is incredibly underused. It's a super powerful Ridden and very fun to play. The only real negative is that the burst ability is shorter than the other tall boy variants, but its health easily covers that. Honestly, I'd easily say that this is an easy S tier for me. The next Ridden being the Crusher, trying to fight off the urge to make another Crusher I hardly know or joke. I know I'm so hilarious. Its weak spot being a lot easier to hit, being right at its chin or neck area, which is definitely easier to hit most of the time. Its health being pretty good, starting at 675. It being a tall boy also has its burst ability. Its attack being pretty unique where it actually grabs a survivor and does damage over time. The damage itself being pretty good, doing about 6 to 8 damage, but very, very quickly. The main advantage, of course, being that the survivor that's getting attacked can't actually fight back in any way, unless they use some sort of item or ability to break out of the grab. But that, of course, leading to the downfall of the Crusher, where you have to be pretty smart here and have a lot of trust in your teammates, where you can be very vulnerable during this attack and be killed very easily. Now, it's very high risk and high reward, but it's the only ability that the Crusher has that actually deals damage. So not being able to move and only being able to attack one person at a time makes this character a lot less viable than someone like the Bruiser. Now, of course, the Crusher does have a couple benefits over the Bruiser, but being less agile and easier to kill in general with its low health is a huge problem for the character. So a lot of people do really love the Crusher, but I will be putting it in B tier, because in some situations the Crusher will be shut down immediately, while in other situations it'll really thrive and be the best Ridden you can choose in some situations. Now the tall boy. Seems like I can't make some sort of unfunny joke from this character's name, besides from me having my own sort of tall boy, if you know what I mean. Why do I do this? A lot of people play the tall boy and it's easy to see why. Its weak spot is on its arm, the same as the Bruiser. Its health starts out at 625. It of course also has the burst ability, which is longer and better than any other tall boy. The only other ability that it has is the overhead smash ability, which has a really good starting damage at about 20. Now it is affected by the card True Grit, which I have explained before, but it being 20 whole damage and hitting so quickly that it pretty much doesn't matter. Yeah, it'll make it slightly harder, but the raw damage is just so good. But with the burst ability, once you have your eyes set on someone, they can pretty much never escape you. It being fast with high damage and being pretty hard to kill easily puts it in S tier right behind the Bruiser, and I would definitely recommend it as the first Ridden anyone should play. But now that we're done with all the tall boys, we're now on to the Stingers. I really did think of a few jokes for the Hawker, but I'm honestly embarrassed by how terrible they were. Its weak spot is on its torso, its health is 90. All Stingers have a lunge ability to jump far distances. It has a long range projectile that once it hits a target, it traps them in place and they have to break out, or someone has to hit them out of it. If it misses entirely, then it just has a 3-second cooldown. If it hits, then the cooldown doesn't actually start until they break out of the trap, and then it has a 6-second cooldown. Their main attack ability is the melee attack, which is a short range melee. It does a small 2 damage with each hit, but does more and more damage with each hit that it deals. For the Hawker, if you don't pick just the right moment to strike, then you'll get eliminated pretty much instantly. But for such a high risk character, you get very little reward, so I'm going to be putting him all the way down in D tier. If you like him, that's fine, I just don't really see that much use for him in most situations. I would make a joke about the Stalker, but then I would just be admitting to a crime. It has a starting health of 120. Its weak spot is just its head. It of course has the same leap ability as any other stinger. It also has the same melee attack ability with a starting damage of 2. But its new ability is actually just another leap ability, except if you land on someone you'll slowly do damage over time, and you can also drag them wherever you want during this. Of course you can drag them away from their allies, into your allies, or into the swarm. If your team is working together and making big attacks, then you by yourself with just one ability can completely take out an enemy from the entire match. Unless the enemy breaks out with a stun gun or an ability from a card, which then you're just done. C tier for the fact that it's so situational. Now the Stinger. Now just pretend that I said something funny after that, I don't know. Its weak point is on its chest, it has a starting health of 90, it has the same leap ability as any other stinger. It only has one attack ability being Spit, which does 6 damage with each hit. It's a long range projectile that shoots pretty quickly but slows down over time. And it tells you how long until you can go back to your normal shooting speed in the bottom left. But it being a ranged ability, whenever you feel like it's shooting too slow, you can just retreat behind cover and wait until it's back to its normal. You're not having to go out and attack someone close up, means that you avoid a lot of the weaknesses that the other stingers have. This means that if an enemy is trying to revive their teammate, you can safely snipe them from far away. A fine character, B tier. Hey guys, I'm cutting in right here. So I recorded all the gameplay footage for the Wretches on my Xbox, but sometimes it just gets deleted automatically over time. I don't know why it happened, but it did happen. I might go more in depth in the description of my video. So now there's going to be unrelated gameplay footage. I'm more annoyed than I should be, so let's just get back to the video. To retch means to make the sound or movement of vomiting, so it's basically just another word for gagging. So I'll let you make your own obvious and hilarious joke with that one. Go on. I'm waiting. Anyways, the weak point is at the top of its head, has a starting health of 250. It has the charge ability, which is similar to the Tall Boy's burst ability, except it does knockback and does a little bit of damage if upgraded. It also has the melee attack ability from the Stingers, but its main attack ability being the vomit ability, where it only does 1 damage but very quickly, and it even leaves acid puddles on the ground doing the same amount of damage. How easily that makes the enemy team disband and become unorganized is insanely good. And like all Reekers, when the Wretch gets eliminated, they explode in a huge area, doing a ton of knockback, being able to fling people all around, and maybe throw them into the swarm, or even being able to throw them off the map entirely, eliminating them from the game. I would say the Wretch is easily an S tier, due to the insane area control that it has, and it makes it so the enemy team can never stay grouped up together, but staying close together is always the main way to survive. Now the Exploder. More like I'm gonna explode her guts. And hey, do you want to spend half your time waiting to respawn? Well, here you go. Its weak point is at the middle of its stomach. It has a starting health of 200. The Exploder has the melee attack ability, which who even cares because you can also self-destruct. But first they have a charge ability, which lets you get nice and close up, which of course is mainly used so you can get close up and self-destruct, which can of course do insane damage. And if you do it just right, you can do over 40 damage. And of course it explodes in a huge area, being able to affect multiple of the enemy team. It'll of course also spread out the enemy team, meaning that even when you're gone, it'll still help out your team take out the enemies. So I'm going to be putting the Exploder in very high A tier. The only reason it's not going to be in S tier is because of how much time you're going to be waiting just to respawn. And now the Reeker. The Reeker, more like, please end my suffering. Its weak spot is on its stomach. It has a starting health of 450, which is quite a lot for a Reeker. It of course also has the charge ability. Its main attack is the frenzy ability, which is very similar to the melee attack ability, except with each hit it gets faster and faster. The Reeker can cause insane pressure because people know that the longer you're on them, the more and more damage you're going to be able to do to them. And it'll quickly escalate to huge amounts of damage. And there's also the pressure on them knowing that when they eliminate you, you'll cause that huge explosion, knocking them away from their team. But of course there are some limitations, of course only being able to attack at such close ranges, and being such an easy target to hit with a relatively low health compared to like the Tall Boys, for example, that are also close range fighters. And even then, the Tall Boys have those big, long, meaty, juicy arms that they can just swing around wherever they want. Very relatable. But the point is that even they have longer range than the Reeker. So I'll say the Reeker is A tier. I'm sure some of what I said will be changed by updates. But that doesn't really bother me that much. I had a lot of fun making this video, honestly. And I hope you had fun watching this video, my e-boys and e-girls, or e-whatever you are. And if you did stay this long, I hope it's because of me and my style of content and not just the video game that I'm talking about. And if I'm right, of course you can subscribe. You can like the video if you liked it, and maybe dislike it if you disliked it. I'm not sure if that option's gonna be even there anymore, who knows. I did privatize a couple of my videos because they felt a little bit rushed to me, so. One last thing about the tier list is that it's all my opinion, so don't really take it too seriously. I would suggest trying out all the different characters and just having fun. That's it, bye bye.